Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel. I'm going to start off today's video with two separate things. First, I'm going to ask you a question that I'd love your feedback in the comments, which is, I'd love to know from you what you consider to be the ideal length video that I produce here. On some of my in-depth reviews, I go somewhere between 10 and 20 minutes a lot of times, and then for some of my other content, I tend to stay a little on the shorter side. I know when I'm scrolling through YouTube, there are certain videos that I'll migrate to and stay away from based on their content length, but I'd love to know from you, what is the ideal length? And then second, I'm going to issue a challenge. Based on YouTube statistics, only about 15% of you that are watching right now are subscribed. And I'm really trying to push towards a higher number of subscribers right now, which I would greatly appreciate. Right now I'm sitting at about 3,100 subscribers, which I love. I'm trying to get to 3,500 by the end of the year. And based on the fact that in the last week we were able to add 48 subscribers, which is fantastic news, I don't think it's impossible that we could get all the way up to 3,500. So if you get a chance, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you can get notified for future videos, which right now I'm releasing about 2 a week, and I'm going to continue to try to target that. Now, on to the video. One of the things that I'd love to explore is this new AI feature that Strava has rolled out. Now, first and foremost, let me get this out of the way. I love Strava. Strava is an amazing app. I'm a premium subscriber and have been for as long as that's been a feature. And I think the thing that Strava provides for this industry, for the cycling industry on the whole, is unbeatable. I think it is unmatched and is probably one of the most important things that cyclists have had available to them for quite some time. So, before I get into criticizing the ever-loving crap out of Strava, which I'm going to, I wanted to get that out of the way. I love Strava. I think they're doing a fantastic job. Now, here's where I think they could do better, okay? I know that they're trying to introduce a new feature with this new athlete AI, and I can appreciate that. But I can also tell you this. I am an IT professional. I have specialized in artificial intelligence for the last few years. And I'm an IT executive working at the highest levels in technology. And I can tell you this is a horrible implementation of artificial intelligence. I can also tell you that from a coaching perspective, because the things that I see here do not represent reality. And I think, to be honest with you, you should disregard everything you see from the athlete AI, athlete intelligence. Just get rid of it. It's useless. So let me explain why I say that. Okay. Over the last couple weeks, I've been focusing on the last 3 weeks really, I've been focusing on building myself to the point of fatigue. And I've been doing that on purpose. I've been doing that, number one, because I actually wanted to do that for this video, to show varying levels of fatigue and how it relates to what is being said to me in the athlete AI. And then I also wanted to do that as part of my training. So build, and then rest, and then come back with a really intense block. And that's my goal here as well. And part of that's because Will's coming home for college, for Thanksgiving from college here in a few weeks, and I want to be super fit when he gets here because I'm not going to be able to keep up with him otherwise. Okay, so let's take a look at the athlete AI. Now, first and foremost, one of the biggest frustrations that I have from Strava is the inability for them to be able to create a seamless experience between the app and the website. We're dealing with all of the exact same data. It should all be in the exact same location. It should be all formatted the same way. And really all you're talking about is the front end. And considering the fact that there are so many things that the app will do that the website will not, or the website will do that the app will not, I think that's inexcusable. I think it's frustrating. And I don't understand why it is that those two development teams, which I believe are completely different development teams, don't discuss the user experience on both of those applications. I think that's absolutely absurd. Strava, go ahead, hire me. This is something that's in my specialty. I will happily come in there and help you fix that because that is a huge problem. And it is something that your athletes are frustrated by, but I don't think you're listening. Okay, now that actually plays into what I'm talking about here. Maybe there's some stuff in here about the artificial intelligence, the athlete intelligence stuff, but I'm not seeing it. And maybe I just haven't dove deeply enough into the website version, but I'm not seeing it there. I do see it, however, on my app. And I'll tell you, it's really frustrating that I don't have the same experience between both devices. Now, let's talk about what it actually says. Now, I'm going to go back to a specific ride where it says, the title of my ride is Had to Go Outside. And frankly, I had to go outside because it had been gross for a whole week and I was on the trainer and I really felt the need to get outdoors. Now, if I look at what it says here on the athlete intelligence, I'm going to expand this a little bit. Impressive long ride with high power output. Okay, first of all, not that long, 56 miles, 55.93. It'll say, despite your lower speeds, your consistent training is paying off with strong endurance and the ability to handle challenging terrain. Newsflash, this was not challenging terrain. In fact, it's some of the easiest terrain in the area. Yes, there's a couple really strong hills on this one, but you'll also notice these valleys, and that's because I specifically went to the valley. Okay. Now I rode with a teammate of mine who also happens to be a subscriber, so howdy. And that's going to have an impact here. Okay, so it says, looks like you really had to get outside. Okay, so it's looking at the title and coming up with something clever using the artificial intelligence gimmick. For that long ride, at 55.9 miles in 3.5 hours, it was your longest ride in the past month. No, it wasn't. No, it's not. Now, here's the thing. This is where artificial intelligence fails, because what it doesn't see is that I've done a number of like 50-mile rides and then immediately come back and hopped on the trainer for another 2 to 3 hours and gotten in another 30-some miles. Is it my longest single ride? Yeah, but you know, for me to do 100 miles on a Saturday afternoon is not that big of a deal, and it's like, oh, hey, you did 55 miles, congratulations. It was your longest ride in the past month. The extra distance and elevation gain, 2,431 feet. 2,431 feet in this area is nothing, okay? Most rides that I do, you'll average 100 feet per mile. So 50 miles, I'll do 5,000 feet of climbing. That's about half. This ride is about half the amount of climbing I normally do. So I don't know where it's coming up with that, you know, extra elevation gain. Well, okay. Made this a tough one. With your power and heart rate hitting some of your highest levels recently. We're going to get to that in just a second. But you powered through it, and the highest relative effort score of 74 shows how hard you worked. Relative effort score, by the way, is an almost arbitrary number based entirely on your heart rate, but it doesn't factor in a number of things, including fatigue and training load. Keep up the great training. Your fitness is clearly improving. No, it's not. I'm literally driving towards fatigue. And if you look at the remaining rides over the coming week, you'll notice, or 2 weeks even, you'll notice that my fitness is decreasing, not increasing. So as a coach, I find this dangerous and insulting. Now, like I said, I was going to come back to this, made this a tough one with your power and heart rate hitting some of your highest levels. Okay, well, no, it didn't. There were a couple sustained efforts where I was doing like 400 watts up a climb, sure, but for very short durations. Heart rate hitting highest levels, well, yeah, I'm doing 400 watts for a few minutes. It's going to peak those levels. But the reality is that my heart rate stayed in a relatively low zone for the majority of the day. I just spiked it a couple times. It's looking at that information out of context. It doesn't really consider anything other than it looks at your previous efforts and says, well, gosh, your previous effort, you hit a heart rate of 150, but this effort, you hit 170, you must be improving. No, it doesn't take into consideration, it can't take into consideration rate of perceived effort because you don't really enter that information. It doesn't take into consideration heart rate over power over a given amount of time, which is absolutely critical. And as a coach, when I'm looking at an athlete's power file, I'm not just looking at, hey, congratulations, you held 280 watts for 10 minutes. I don't care about that. I need to understand what your heart rate is doing at the same time. You have a triangle. You have your heart rate, your power, and your rate of perceived effort. All three of those things have to be balanced. Not just your power. I don't care about your power. Your power by itself is a meaningless bit of data. It has to be combined with those other two pieces of information. At a minimum, it has to be considered with your heart rate. So let's take a look at another one of these rides. Now, bear in mind, I was relatively fit for this. I wasn't super fatigued. But let's go to one where I had started to get a little bit fatigued. Okay, and this one's just called Afternoon Ride because I'm not one of those clever people that can come up with a bunch of cool titles. Kudos to you that can do that. Okay, at this point, I'm starting to feel a significant amount of fatigue on my rides because I haven't had really a real rest day in 2.5 weeks. And I've been doing mostly zone 2 and zone 3 efforts for the last several weeks with a couple workouts where I really focus on intensity, but I really haven't had much in the way of rest, and that was by design. Now, let's look at this athlete intelligence here. Great ride with a solid power output and speed above your recent average. I don't care about speed. It is not a metric that I measure my performance by. Okay, your consistent training is paying off and you're exploring new terrain to keep things fresh. It basically saw that I took one neighborhood road that I don't normally take. So it's like, oh, well, that's new terrain. No, it's not. I turned right instead of turning left and then caught back up with my same path. Again, what data are you looking at? And I can tell you what data they're looking at, by the way, and it's basically just comparing all of your previous stuff and not taking anything into context, which is dangerous. Stop doing this. Okay. Nice ride. Your average speed of 17 miles per hour was faster than your 30-day average of 16 miles per hour. Again, I don't care about speed. And when you take into consideration that it's looking at that in isolation, it is looking at your speed in isolation. It's saying, hey, you did 17 miles an hour today, which, by the way, again, if you look at this terrain is incredibly flat. It is ridiculously flat. I chose a flat route again. Of course I'm going to have a higher speed. Why wouldn't I? If I were doing a hillier route, I'd have a much slower speed. But in reality, this was a kind of just chill ride where we're just riding along, just chatting. So, 17 miles an hour. Again, it's taking stuff out of context that doesn't need to, it needs more context for you to understand what it is. Okay, your average speed of 17 miles per hour was faster than your 30-day average of 16 miles per hour. Yes, because I've been doing a lot of hill climbing and this was a flat route. Showing you're maintaining a good pace. Your power output was also solid with an average of 154 watts. Now this is something that really, frankly, pisses me off about Strava. I call it the Strava tax. I got that title, that name from a riding colleague of Will's. I call it the Strava tax. I will upload a ride. My computer says I averaged 220 watts. Training Peaks and Intervals will both say I did 210 watts. Strava will say I did 150 watts. My computer already factors out all the times I'm not pedaling. But I think that Strava does that again. Like it does it twice. It over factors that. So it basically drops my power output significantly, which is why it is that when I'm coaching an athlete or I'm looking at my own power files, I don't look at Strava. Strava's power figures, for some strange reason, are incorrect, and sometimes wildly incorrect. But okay, with an average power of 154, just above your 30-day typical, the relative effort of 51 is right in your normal range, so you put in a good, consistent effort. Keep up the good work. Why is that a good thing? If I'm trying to focus on improvement and keeping my relative effort at 51, again, without context, I'm not doing anything. These are junk miles. But it's congratulating me on this, which means if I'm an athlete trying to actually improve, and I look at this artificial athlete intelligence BS, I'm going to think I'm on the right path, when in reality, I'm actually self-destructing here. This is dangerous. Okay, now one last one. The next day, I was feeling extreme fatigue. So literally the very next day, extreme fatigue, okay? Again, rode with a teammate / subscriber here to the channel. And let's take a look at it here. Solid ride. Now this one actually did have a little bit of climbing in it. 33 miles, 2,400 feet of climbing. And you can see there's only a couple little valleys which impacted that and dropped the average. But it says, okay, solid ride with strong power output and speed exceeding your 30-day averages. Your consistent training is paying off with improved fitness. I'm going to show you in just a moment why it was that I'm not. Looks like you crushed it on this ride. Your average speed of 17 miles an hour is faster than your 30-day average of 16 miles per hour, and you hit some impressive power numbers too. Your 2,438 feet of elevation gain was the most you've done in the last 2 weeks, and your relative effort of 47 was right in your normal range. Keep up the great work. You're clearly making progress on your fitness. Now, let me show you something where I can tell you that this is incredibly dangerous. This segment called Chip Seal Hell South, Crescent Valley. I like to do this segment. You can see I'm actually in 4th place on it overall with an average speed of 28.1 miles an hour. I wasn't in any danger of exceeding that this time, especially since I had to stop at the end and take a pee, and it was like 50 feet from the end of the segment, so no big challenge there. But let's take a look here and let's actually analyze my work. So if I look at my power, I'm doing through this section here, a relatively consistent power of anywhere between 250 and 300 watts at any given time. Look at my heart rate. My lactate threshold 1, my LT1, sits around 155 to 156 beats per minute. And I've had that tested. I've had it tested in the lab numerous times, and every single time my LT1 tests out at about 156 beats per minute. I'm doing borderline threshold level work here. So LT1 is typically where I tip over my zone 2 into zone 3, which means that I would be sitting around 220 to 225 watts. But I'm consistently doing 260 to 280 through this whole section here. And look at my heart rate. I can't get my heart rate above pretty much where I tip over into LT1. What this says is that I am extremely fatigued. Extremely fatigued. If I can't get my heart rate that high when I'm doing a sustained effort between, again, 250 and 300, and my heart rate won't go above LT1. I should be sitting on a LT2, which is about 176 to 185 beats per minute. But I can't get it to tip over 158 is the highest I could peak. This is extremely dangerous. And Strava, you need to take this artificial intelligence, athlete intelligence down. Because this, by the way, is where I'm hitting significant amounts of exercise-induced PVCs. In other words, my heart at this point is kind of freaking out. Now, I know what my heart is capable of because I've, again, undergone numerous laboratory tests of what is possible and what's not. But if somebody hasn't gone through that, hasn't had the ECG to determine that their heart is in good health, and they're pushing because you say, hey, gosh, you are improving, you're doing great, you're doing fantastic, all of your stats point to doing good things, and they keep pushing, and their heart is about to explode because of your information, you're going to kill someone. So I take this incredibly seriously. Not only is this athlete intelligence a bad idea, not only is this athlete intelligence incorrect and useless, because all it does is it looks at one piece of data at a time. It looks at your previous heart rate and says yes or no, good or up or down. It looks at your previous power and says yes or no, up or down. That is a level of inconsistency and inaccuracy that is unacceptable, and it does create a health hazard. You are going to kill someone, Strava. So, do I sound like I'm being a little bit dramatic? Yes. But do I think it's for good cause? Absolutely. There's absolutely no reason on earth that my fitness should be saying here that your relative effort of 47 was right in your normal range. Keep up the great work. You're clearly making progress on your fitness. This is the path towards burnout. This is the path towards injury and potentially the path towards death. So I do take it seriously. I take it very seriously. This is a horrible concept. If Strava won't take this down, then what I urge you to do is completely and totally ignore everything it says here. Contact me, show me your file. Contact a coach, show them your files, show them your last several months of workouts, and we can look at it and tell you whether you're on the path to destruction or the path to improvement. But I can tell you, if I've got a computer program here looking at my heart rate and says, hey, your heart rate was great, but it doesn't take into consideration my power, or it looks at my power and says, oh, your power was fantastic, but my heart rate is struggling to go above my LT1. These are things I need to know. And this is dangerous. Okay, so enough fear-mongering. This is really all I have to say about this Strava athlete intelligence. I think it's dangerous, I think it's problematic, and I think it would be much better for you to spend a little bit of money to consult with a coach. And a lot of coaches, by the way, will work with you on a single exploration of your fitness. You don't have to do an ongoing monthly relationship with a coach, or if you do, just do a single month and just explain to them up front, hey, I'm looking to get a better idea as to what it is that I'm looking for. A lot of times they'll offer that service for you at a reduced rate just to take a look at your files and say, this is maybe a recommendation for you. This is a bad idea. This athlete intelligence is dangerous. So I've said my piece. I've probably beat it into the ground. Be careful out there. Always look at your triangle. Again, that is your power, your heart rate, and your rate of perceived effort. If you're only measuring one of those at a time, and that's your only metric, you do run the risk of severe danger. So please bear that in mind. Stay safe out there. We have enough problems with people trying to kill us on the roads. We also don't need you trying to kill yourself in the pursuit of a higher power number. Ignore your athlete intelligence. Just get out there and ride. Okay, that's all I have for today. I really appreciate you all stopping by and indulging me on this journey. It's been something I've been watching with interest, and it's very frustrating to me. Strava, if you want to actually fix some of this stuff, call me. I will come in and work with your dev teams. This is unacceptable. You should not be happy about this information that's coming out. You should not be pushing this. I'll come to work. I'll move. If you need me to relocate to work for you, I will come out there and work with you. Other than that, stay safe out there. Ride your bikes, have fun, and ignore this AI junk. Other than that, again, thank you so much for stopping by, and I will see you in the next video. Cheers.